You're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports for the Monday lunchtime show. Big next 24 hours for Springboks with Jacques Nienaber set to announce his third and final team for the Welsh incoming series tomorrow at about 12 o'clock. And it'll be a side that'll have to go and try and beat Wales on Saturday in Cape Town to seal the series victory after the series currently stands at 1-1 after the Springboks went down to Wales this past weekend. And we are expecting another week with lots of changes. And I think that this weekend we are going to see something close to our strongest 15, our strongest 23. And I think, what we've had over the last 2 weeks, I think that's what Jacques Nienaber alluded to, is he's got answers on questions about players. He has now seen everybody in that 43-man squad. Everybody has played some sort of rugby at some stage. And we are hopefully now all prepped to sort of see, which players are going to be back moving forward. We've now there are a limited amount of opportunities in the coming months to give these players an game time until we go on the end of year tour, where there will be 7 matches across a month, and there's plenty of opportunity to play these guys. So tomorrow's selection is going to be very interesting because, I think in theory it was a case of the usuals. You go out on the first test, you're going to rotate for the second test, impress me. Show me that I have to select you for that third test. And unfortunately, I don't think too many players really did that. I don't think too many players really sort of put their hands up and said, you have to select me for the third test, even if you weren't planning on it. So I don't think there were too many new faces who really grabbed the opportunity and made themselves undroppable. So I do think that the Springboks will have every right to make whatever selection they want to tomorrow because, with the exception of maybe like Kurtley Arons, Jane Hendricks, yes, piece on the first test. Damien Villeneuve, for example. I don't think there were that many players who were standout players. So the obvious thing is to then go back to what the tried and tested are. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know what you think is going to happen tomorrow. Let me know how you're feeling. Are we feeling a little bit more optimistic, a little bit more comfortable with the loss? Have we come to terms with the fact that we will lose matches? We are no longer number one in the world. In many ways, the Springboks have always thrived with that sort of a slight underdog tag. Not that I think the Springboks are ever an underdog, given the fact that we are one of the most proud and best rugby nations in the world. But, hopefully after a couple of days, we can now just sort of start being a little bit more measured, maybe, about some of the things that we say and about our sort of attitude and stuff like that. So, for me, there's one massive question about tomorrow, and that is a 6-2 split or a 5-3 split. In the first test, we saw how the bomb squad really does change the game. Lesser extent on Saturday. It also doesn't give you, obviously, as much opportunity to really to give people game time, given the fact that you only have 2 backs on the bench. You can sometimes limit your options. So, the fact that, for example, Andre Pollard went down with a bit of a slight injury on Saturday is a bit of a worry, for example. I think that in theory, he should be fit, but given the fact that he is potentially carrying a slight injury or a slight knock, does that play into the minds? Do we maybe go to a 5-3 split? So I see Brent Suarez here. Welcome, Matt Dixon. I think we should give the newbies another shot, actually. Fred Kruger says it'll be interesting to see a mix of old and new, but there's a good chance they'll play the same team in the first test, but with 110. Welcome, Young Rugby. Said the third test will be so stressful. I'll double up you well. Agree with you and hope they give Hendricks another spin. He was really impressive. We need a 5-3 split to have to ask more questions about Wyatt, Hendricks, Andre, and Villy. I think we should shift focus to the end of year tour. Joe big worried about Alton, says Jacques. To lose by 1 point with all the change, David time's not bad at all. Vic says, I will give Dweba another chance over Bongi. I think we know what Bongi can do. We need to give him our third choice hooker a chance. Similarly with Kitsoff. Jacques says he has barely ever worked in the Rusty era. Actually, I thought that if you roll back a year ago, I think Alton Yankees actually had some of his better games in a block jersey. Because I think he has changed quite a lot as a player. Yes, I think Nienaber slept in all Sharks front row. The scrums were fantastic in the OC. When Thomas is a super screamer. Batty weighs 136 kgs. That's 16 kgs more than Beast. So this is what I think we're going to go with tomorrow. I do think we're going to bring back the first test front row. I do think Oxenshare, Bongi, Manambi, France, Maherba will start with the second row of Malcolm Mark, Stephen Kitsoff, and Vincent Koch. I have big question marks about whether we're going to get Trevor in, but I think Trevor did struggle a little bit last weekend, so I wouldn't be upset if he did play because I think he's a world-class player and he was one of our best props last year. But similarly, I can understand why they wouldn't play him. I think Etzebeth and Diago go into the locks. I personally would rather start Mostert. and have Diago coming off the bench at 40 minutes. And you can shift Mostert around wherever. I just think that he's somebody who doesn't have as big an impact coming off the bench compared to, for example, Alua Diago would have a far bigger impact. I think Eben Etzebeth will make his 100th test appearance this Saturday. And the loose chair, I think we're going to have Scalisi back in there. I think PSDF Toy will get another opportunity despite a pretty poor performance this weekend. The other option, for example, would be to play Franco Mostert at 7 for PSDF Toy as the reserve lock slash flank, because you can change things around. So you can say, right, PSDF Toy is on the bench with the, and then if he comes on, he can come on at 7, and you can shift Franco Mostert to 5 or 4, whatever. And I think we go back to Jasper Wiese. I truly do. I think Jasper Wiese was the man of the match in the first test, and I don't think Evan Roos did enough to dislodge him. I think that I was pretty impressed with what I saw from Jasper Wiese, and I think that we maybe I think we missed his ability to get over the advantage line a little bit. So yeah, I think Faf de Klerk and Bonjapala will reunite their usual sort of combination. A lot of people criticizing Faf quite a lot in the first test, but he is our first choice scrum half, and he's very important to our defensive effort. So I think he does come back in. I think if Pards fit, he obviously starts, and I think they'll still trust Mapimpi. I know he didn't have a particularly good first test, but if we are being completely honest, he touched the ball once. He got one opportunity with ball in hand. So I think it would be very tough to drop him, given how good he was, especially at the end of year tour last year, and how good he has been for the Boks. If you were to have another average game, then that's a whole different scenario. But I think his ability in the air, for example, he's come a long way. Defensively, he's become a long way, and maybe defensively reading was a bit off in the first test. But yeah, I mean, Mapimpi scores has got a rate of almost just under a try a match. So you are going to back him. Damon J. Lindy Lacuna comes back in. That's a very easy decision to make. Same with Chase and Colby. I would still back Willemse. I think they will back Willemse at 15 after the great game he had in the first test. Must be a temptation to bring Villilu back in terms of adding a bit more impotence to the backline, a bit more creativity, a little bit. So I think that Willemse will get a nod. I do think that Villilu will definitely be in the 23 because I think we need his experience. And then off the bench, Malcolm Mox, Stephen Kitts, or Vincent Koch is pretty much guaranteed as far as I'm concerned. I do think it's going to be either Mostert or a PSJ Toy in that number 19 jersey. I'll be surprised if we see like a Salman Murat. I'll be surprised if we see Ruan Nokia. And then I would like to see Ulrich Lowe get an opportunity. I think the safer call maybe to put in like a Renan Elstad, for example, who's got a bit more experience. But I do think I was very impressed with what I saw with Ulrich Lowe in the first test. And I thought that him and Kwaka Smith really made a statement when they came on. And Kwaka for me is inevitable. Even if we go with the 5-3, I'm still selecting him because he made such a big difference in that first test. Incredible over the ball. Adds a lot of speed to the attack. The big sort of test, change that I think people would be a bit surprised at maybe a couple of weeks ago is I definitely would put Hendricks on the bench. I thought that he looked incredibly at home with the weekend. And I think that he looked a lot more confident, a lot better than Herschel Yankees did. And I think Herschel Yankees is something that you need another big season next season. We need to get back to that Herschel that we saw in the 2019 World Cup. We're just not quite seeing it yet. So I would like to reward Jane Henderson with another opportunity, and then I think that if LaRue starts, Willemse on the bench, or if Willemse starts, then LaRue's on the bench. So I think the bench is going to be pretty close to that, I would think. But Gregory says, Joanne says, do you also want to see the All Sharks front row? I wouldn't put Thomas Toy in this weekend. I would keep to France Maherba and Vincent Koch, but I would bring in Oxenchair and Bongi. Gregory Rhodes says, drop Mapimpi, bring in Orense. Metamol says, the only player left the field on Saturday with a share is worth more before coming on the field is Orense. The other new faces were at best neutral. Does Rock Up TV, it looks like he likes the selection. Most says, I'm not confident the Boks can win the series on Saturday. Dan says, yes, to play better than Uris, but he's got more experience, though. I guess Uris just had an off day, but we must try and get him more space. He is dangerous. Vic says, Henderson ticks a lot of boxes like Faf. I do agree that we will probably give him another run. Fred says, personally, I'd like to see Villa start at 10 for a game. I don't think we'll see that. Reckon Dwayne will be ready in time to play against the All Blacks. No, not a chance. I think he'll only be ready at the end of the year at most. Merit says, Russ was exposed defensively. Andy Butler says, everything points to Boks by 10, but history has to be made sometime. Wales by 3. Jan says, I think we'll win the third test because a lot of people will be writing us off potentially. We love to get critics because then we can always prove people wrong. Clint DeVos says, would be interesting to see Ruiz, Lowe, and Kwak combination off the bench. would be explosive. Yeah, I think the biggest issue there is you got no natural lock, but I suppose you can get away with not having a lock on the bench if you, for example, are starting Peter Steph Toy for Evan Etzebeth and Lua Diaga, or Peter Steph or Etzebeth Diaga and Franco Mostert, for example. You could potentially get away with having a low Ruiz, Quacker Smith bench. But yeah, the issue comes with lock. Although I do think that I reckon Albert Lowe could probably play lock if he had to. I think he's an incredible versatile player that understands his game very well and then can sort of slot into the game plan very, very well. If we win, how does that affect the world standings? I don't think it'll do much. If you saw my video earlier, because the world rankings points hinge a lot on your opposition, as well as the fact home advantage. The fact that we're playing now the 8th ranked team at home, although we are now the 3rd ranked team, so that will obviously change things a bit. Look, I think if we were to put in a big score, that would help. Because I think if you do win by more than 15 points, that does help. So yeah, if we were to go beat them by 15 points, we might be able to go up to maybe 2nd. I'll be surprised. I'll have to physically work it out, and obviously other results will also will impact the selection. So yeah, but put it this way, I don't think we'll be number 1 by next week. I'm not even sure if we. I mean, I think mathematically, I think we can do it. Whether we will is a whole different point. If we win, Kalant lost the game. He didn't even try to tackle Josh Adams. He watched him score the try. Could have saved us the game. No, incorrect. He was scoring that try every single day of the week. Could have put it anywhere there. He was well beaten. You can't put that on Warwick Kalant. That's like everybody saying that Ntuku Nkunu lost us the game because you can see the scrum though they went to the line out. I think it's a very lazy analysis. Jean Dialog says, give here to Orange another chance. Albert must be groomed as a 7, says Millet. William Cox, I thought you were all super excited about your form team last week. We were, we still are. Take the Pimpy out and put Orange, so we're going to drop to 6 in the world if we lose Saturday. Fred says, I didn't mean for this game, but maybe against Argentina, try Brimser at 10. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people asking for Brimser at 10. I'm not convinced, I must admit. I thought we had finally... I thought we'd finally sort of buried the hatchet really on him playing 10, and I think that when they did bury the hatchet on him playing 10, I think we started to see the best of David Williamson. So yeah, I'm pretty hesitant to say that now that he's playing really well, that he has now we need to put him back in 10. I think 12 and 15 is where he should be starting any games. If he has to slot in a 10, he can. But I think those are his 2 best positions, and I'd really like to keep him there. And let him become a world-class inside center or a world-class fullback. I wouldn't really like to see him give him game time at 10. Because I think that he got so much better when he didn't have to worry about that. Johnny also, can we go back to playing 3 backs on the bench? We almost got caught out on the weekend with Williams on the wing. Yeah, look, that's what happens, isn't it? Really, that's kind of the reality of what can happen. So yeah, maybe that would be another sort of reason to maybe go back to that 5-3. S-Box says Wales by 5. Zach says, I will start Henderson and bring on Faf. What is your opinion on Ruan Nokia? He didn't have much to do on Saturday. I think he's going to have a long future ahead of him in the box squad. He's the natural Franco Master replacement. So yeah, I don't think we'll see much of him in the next couple of games, but if there are injuries, then he's ready to go. Yeah, says we must try play a style that makes the players be their best, like getting rid of more spaces. Incorrect. We must play the style that we want to play and we plan on playing next year. You don't change an entire setup just because of one season by a player who could get injured the next game. You change the entire style for Evan Ruiz. Evan Ruiz is no longer available. You then have to change your entire style to suit Jasper Wiese. You have to change your entire style to suit Dan Vermeulen. At international level, you have a structure, you have a setup, you have a game plan, and then you bring players in to suit it. Yeah, it's Hope Lazy must be included in the box squad. The Rugby Championship. The squad won't change. Marvin Ori is the reason Henderson for the box squad. He should be nowhere near the box side. I thought Marvin Ori actually probably outplayed quite a few people on Saturday. And he says, Kalan could have stopped him so much time. I was too scared to tackle him. Again, you're incorrect, unfortunately. We are the number 9 ranked team according to me below Wales. Good thing it's not up to you. Yeah, I'm saying I didn't create a decent game when he came on. But yeah, I think the other options in terms of playing with this team would be to go with the 5-3. And if you go with the 5-3, you'd have Elton Youngster on the bench. That would be inevitable because you put a fly half on the bench. I don't think we'd ever see a 5-3 with like Esterhuizen, Hendrickse, and Leroux or Willemse, for example. If they went with a 5-3, you would have a second fly half. Because Pollard can cover inside center, Willemse can cover inside center and wing. Leroux covers wing and fullback. So yeah, we wouldn't see a center in that number 22 jersey if we did go with a 5-3 split. If we went for a 5-3 split, the interesting thing will be the forwards on the bench, because I would definitely have Quacker Smith in the number 20 jersey. The question is, who would you put at 19? Do you put an Albert Lowe and hope that one of your locks can, both your locks either play the full 80, or if Peter Steph the toy slots back in? Do you play Mostert from the start, for example? And do you go Luat Diago on the bench? And then you've got a couple of options there. So the 5-3 split would be an interesting one in terms of how they fit in, their best forwards and different combinations, stuff like that. But don't get mad at me, but will Deontay ever play international rugby again? Well, now he's gone to the Sharks. I hope not. That's swine. I hope so. I hope we do see him at international level. We forget how unflippin' believable he was when he burst onto the scene. And I do think we are missing him at the moment. I do think that the career that Makazole Mapimpi had was the career that Deontay should have had. And probably would have had. I think he's definitely as good, if not better, than Mapimpi when he was at his best. So I hope that next year when he comes back and starts playing, he can get back up to form. I'd love to see him playing for the Springboks again. World Breakthrough Player of the Year. Incredible talent, incredible player. And I think that, he's now served his time. After 4 years, he's missed so much as a result. He's missed 2 World Cups. He won't play in the World Cup next year. So he's missed 2 World Cups. He's missed British Irish Lions Series. He's missed a chance to make himself. He could have been a Springbok great. So, whatever the situation was, whatever happened, I do think once he's back, we need to bury the hatchet and say, right, chap, go forth and flourish and see if we can get him back to playing his best rugby. What is your opinion of putting Toy over Mostert? It's a tricky one, because I think I also sat there going, do I want to be going to Toy or do I want to be going Mostert? I personally think that Franco Mostert actually had a better game than PSGF to Toy had at 7, despite a lot of people going after in the first game because he didn't have the best of games. But I thought PSGF Toy had one of his worst games in a Bok jersey for a while on Saturday. The issue is we know what he can do, and you need to give him game time. The question is, do you give him game time from the start? Do you put him on the bench? What do we do? Because ideally you want Etzebeth, Diago, Moss, and PSGF Toy in every 23. And when Archie Steinman's back, that complicates things a lot. So the question is, how do you sort of get that in? Who's benching and who's playing at 7? PSF Toy is now a 7, can go back to lock, but very much now sort of permanently on the flank. So it raises a lot of questions, but I think the easiest way for me to do it would be to start PSF Toy, and if things are going badly, you can hook him and put on Frank Mostert. Tab says, what's your opinion on game plan? Starters feel us not being innovative has catch up on us. Wales is pretty much able to deal with our ball runners pretty well. Well, it's interesting because a lot of people are criticizing our game plan, and yet how many other international teams are kicking more and more and going with the up and under battle. We've seen New Zealand kicking a lot more than we have in the past. Ireland, for example, kick a lot of ball out of hand. They do sometimes use it, but we are seeing teams generally go to the boot a lot more. Especially, for example, with the 50-22, which has changed defensive shapes quite a lot. So I think that it's. I mean, our game plan, needs to. I'll back whatever game plan works, and defensively, we have always been so rock solid. But we do need to be a bit more creative on attack. We do need to be a bit better on attack, and the question is. How much can we improve on our attack without compromising our structure, our defense, and our system? Because that's the whole thing. We're talking about an overall system. You can't just say we're going to take the Bulls' defense system and the Stormers' attacking system and implement them at the same time, because they're interlinked. It's not that simple. So it's in terms. I mean, it's just small things. How do you turn defense into attack when you win possession back? How do you turn attack into defense? If you lose possession, how are we getting back into our defensive structures? So as I said, it's not that easy to just flick a switch. and then suddenly say, right, guys, just throw the ball around and you'll be fine. It's not that simple. So I do think we need to work on it. Again, I'm hoping that we'll start seeing a bit of an evolution over the next couple of games because now we'll start having the same team playing more and more. And I do think there are certain teams we're going to have to run it a bit to break down. So Honey said that Evan has 100 games, so hopefully it'll make him a better player. 100%. 20 is the game time. Would you like a lock comment of Evan Edsmith and Ruben Lokia? Yeah, maybe in Argentina, for example. Evan Russ. Where's Evan Russ? Well, I wouldn't put him into 23 tomorrow. That's where he is. What do you think about Pollard's performance? Pretty subpar, pretty disappointing. Our 10s are a massive worry because Alton had a pretty shocking game, and then unfortunately Pollard wasn't that much better. He lost 3 high balls very early on. I didn't think his kicking was sublime. Probably a better game than Alton, but not by much, really, was it? So I think that we all are pretty. That's why we're suddenly calling for Damien Willemse at 10 because both our fly halves have had pretty average games in the first couple of tests. So yeah, I think that we'll start at Pollard at 10. That's why I said I think I would be very tempted to go with the 5-3 and put Alton on the bench and to say, right, chaps, between the two of you, you need to pull up your socks and start showing us why you are fly half number 1 and 2. Matthew Dix says, I think you have to look at who can read the play from the opposition. Toya Mossa, I think Toya leads the battle. Ultimate Charge said, this is how the cycle goes. SA tries to run, they don't win. Fans saying we don't run. I mean, yeah. James Pringles, I don't think Faris should be in the squad. Too old. What is the future? The future is Ulrich Lowe, Evan Russ, Jasper Bisa, Ruben Lokia, Sam Murat, Kurtley Orange, all players who are under 24 years old. Damien Willemse, who's 24. Ntutuko Gunu. There are lots of youngsters, so I'm not phased that Dejan Faris in the squad. I think if you were fit and you were firing, Markham and Staden would be back in there, and nobody would have an issue with that. I think that you have to reward form to a certain degree, and I think that sometimes if you have experience, even if it's not international experience, but somebody who's been there before, it does help a lot. Johannes says, I think this is the only team to test our new players. And you see how bad he lost to Georgia. I did. Holland can't play without structure. I think Holland can play without structure. I just think he needs to understand. He needs to play a bit more in terms of getting it right. Because remember that Holland was in the World Cup winning squad in 2019. A lot of people forget that. He's not back in the squad from a long time. He missed last season due to injury. And then played really well and is now back in the setup. So we actually haven't played a full international season without him. He's always been part of the box squad. I think it's just a case of him, playing a bit more with the team and starting to understand what he can and what he can't do again. And that comes with time. What exactly happened with Alton in the airplane? I don't know. I just know that there's a light that's broken. He's paid and there's no issue there. Why Quacker not Dejan Faris? Because Quacker Smith is playing better. I would say Pollard was worse, but that's an unpopular opinion, says Vic. It's a very interesting opinion and nothing else. Deathstroke says, it's just an essay where the tactics are criticised. No, I'm pretty sure a lot of people going after New Zealand. Pretty much as soon as you lose, everybody hates your tactics. As soon as you win, it's not about your tactics. It's just like, the coaching staff are responsible for if you lose, and the players are responsible if you win. What do you think of Nkunu? I think he's very young and raw. I think he's got a lot of potential. I'm not sure he's ready yet. We'll see more of him in the India tour, and I'm quite excited for that. I think he'll play a lot of the midweek games. But I think he's going to get a truckload of experience from spending the time with all these guys over the next few weeks. Dan says, do you think that the reaction to this loss is maybe a bit hyperbolic? It's very hyperbolic. As I said, we had a long chat last night about should we sack the coaching staff, because that was like the whole big roar on Twitter. So yeah, I do think that people are reacting a lot to the loss. I'm not that worried. And I think that if we win again this weekend, then we're sorted. So yeah, time will tell. Time will tell whether we can respond and whether we can come back. But yeah, I'm really not that phased about losing on Saturday. We will lose test matches at the end of the day. And what I actually said last night, I said to a certain degree, I'm quite glad that Wales won for them. For the people, for the Welsh squad itself. You know, such a really nice bunch of guys, a really nice coaching staff, a very nice environment. They've been fantastic tourists. They've really lauded the box and the people. They've had so much good things to say about South Africa during a time when there's not much good to say about this country. So for them, I was quite happy for them that they had that they did win a game, and then they get to leave empty-handed. Obviously on Saturday that gets buried and we need to go out and smack them. But yeah, Double says, I'm telling you all, Tyne Green is the right assist to Billy. Yeah, I would like to see him in the squad, I must admit. Jean Yalok says, I'm still hoping to see this backline one day. Williams, Yalton, Yankees, Colby, Williams, Orange, Gelant. Just X Factor, and X Factor. It would be a lot of fun. It would be a lot of fun to see that backline. I don't know whether it would work or not. It might concede a lot of tries, but I'll tell you what. Every single time somebody makes a pass, the player will just get more exciting and more unpredictable. So it would be a lot of fun. Not your everyday Calder says Kalancha started. He played well, did his job. Darius says thinks Yanks needs to go Sharks team into the Bulls. And he says the All Blacks guys hammering us at the breakdown show, saying we paid the price for changing the team and are not good enough for them at the moment. Well, they didn't change the team and they lost. So, and they lost worse than us as well. Yes, it's Irish the better side, but still, don't come in here with your crap. I don't watch the breakdown. I think it's a lot of crap. The breakdown are questionable at best. Welsh Rugby crazy. Our coach's big balls play 6 debutantes. Not Jerry Cole says Hendrick had a good game. I was surprised by him. Fred Kruger says we haven't lost a game by large margins under Jacques, mostly 1 or 2 points, except maybe the one Australia game. Josh Blunder says, hey, Bot, thanks for the great content and discussion. Sending Backline from Australia. Can I ask your opinion on whether we should see a few more offloads from the box? Well, first of all, Josh, thank you so much for the super chat. I really do appreciate that. They're actually coming in these days, the super chats, which is really, really cool. I do think we need to see a bit more of an expansive game plan. I think, you know, we don't see players running off 10 a lot, and we also don't see that many, as I said, we don't see that many offloads. We're a very direct side. I think I'd like to see more of a balance. I would like to see, you know, a couple more players as first receiver, just you know, a bit of an inside ball every now and again, maybe somebody running on the shoulders. We saw a couple of it this weekend. I really enjoy when people are running off the number 9 shoulders. You know, when you're playing off 9 and you've got guys coming in the inside shoulder and the outside shoulder, and it's kind of sort of working that way around, and then you go back across the line. You know, I enjoy seeing that kind of thing. And I think that Ireland did that very good. They had such good runners off the back of their scrum half. And I thought that, you know, for example, Tyke Byrne was running some incredible lines this weekend, cutting through defenses and getting over the advantage line. So I think we do need to see more of that. You know, and I think that we definitely got the players to do it. A lot of it also as a confidence thing. You know, if you play a bit more of an expansive game plan and you start to win games, you'll get that confidence. But at the moment, you know, we have had a situation where we try to play a bit more expansively, we lose, we go back to be a bit more conservative, and we win. And you sit there going, you know, how long can we afford to play an expensive game plan and lose? You know, when it's a results-based system and you have to be getting results all the time. So yeah, I think it's a tricky one. I personally would like to see more. I think we'd all like to see more. But what I would like to see is not to be aimless, for there to be a plan, for it to add on to our game and not just replace our game. Because we need to find ways that sort of work with our current system. But thanks so much, Josh, for the super chat. I really do appreciate that. Blue Bull says, I don't like how everyone blames Ninabar when we lose, but when we win, it's Rusty's genius brain, 100%. I tweeted that last week. Kay says, the issue is our players are models now. They make more money modeling. I mean, it's a weird comment that. Yeah. Would you like to see Orange start a fullback against Argentina? Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him. There's more of his natural position. What about Orange on the bench because he can play fullback and wing? Well, you have to have Villiers in 23 and you have to have Damian Williams in the 23. For me, you have to. After what Villiers did and in the form Damian Williams did, so those two for me are definitely 23. So unless you're starting Villiers and you're putting Damian Williams as a utility back at 22, for example, and a 5-3 split, I don't see space for answer, unfortunately. David Valherba says, I think they should have brought in some young Flyhalf on form like Chris Smith or Monty Liebach. I know Chris Smith is in his late 20s, but he is BMT. Trevor instead of Ox is just a server. I wouldn't mind that. Ricardo says we need to have more variation in our attack. We too predictable and Wales beat us in our kicking game. Sharks are not always practical, but I think against Wales, the players on the floor pops up the ball to 9. Would be better. Ruben says all 4 Southern Hemisphere teams lost this weekend. First time in history. Also, all 4 Southern Hemisphere teams won one in their own series. Very interesting stats. Well, I think that's the big thing, isn't it? We are going to see 4 finals this weekend. How cool is that? New Zealand versus Ireland final, Australia versus England basically final, South Africa versus Wales final, Scotland versus Argentina basically final. And I mean Scotland versus Argentina 8 versus 7 in the world, Australia versus England 6 versus 5 in the world, New Zealand versus Ireland. That's 2 and 4. So they're very close. So I think that, with the exception of South Africa, Wales, we're looking at players who are basically next to each other in world rankings, playing each other for a series victory. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, we're going to wrap up there, people. Thank you very much for jumping on. Thank you very much for jumping into the comment, stuff like that. We will be live tomorrow at about 12:15 for a reaction to the team announcement. Expect to see a lot of changes once again. And expect to see a much more familiar side, I think, is what I reckon I can tell you. But yeah, so we will see you guys tomorrow for the reaction to the box squad. Until then, keep well, have a good start to the week, and I'll chat to you guys all very soon.